And welcome back to your Mental Health Matters. This is season 3. This time we are going to be talking about parent-child relationships, specifically separation anxiety. It's those young ones, young ones going to school for the first time in early entry or ECDP, and the impact of it in their life, in their parents' life, the milestone it is. It's a big milestone for parents and for children. So we're going to talk a little bit about what you see, what you could look for, and how to support your child moving through this process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what parents can expect when they go to school, you might want to look into they have that intro day for the EAP in the early entry when you before you register.
Yes.
So look for those dates. It's different for every school, but I think they're pretty similar in the springtime. So you could get a chance to go into the schools and get a tour, meet the teachers.
So important.
Yeah.
So important.
And then take your child with you to kind of get familiar with that environment. So before meet the teacher, but then you also want to get familiar with what your child is feeling. So if your child is a little bit worried, maybe acknowledge that to them, make them feel comfortable that this is something that it's normal to feel a little bit worried that first day and those jitters, and maybe think about some things that might help them feel a little bit less stressed on that day. So you could practice some of those strategies beforehand so that on the day of you might kind of get there.
Right. It seems like there's you can put a lot of planning and preparation into this, significant milestone as we're suggesting, right?
Absolutely.
That we start talking about it and sharing ideas and having an open dialogue, right?
Yeah, and some of those ideas might come up naturally, or so you might need to suggest some of them. So some suggestions I might give parents is to let them draw a little bit. You might put a special little picture together to say you could take this with you, or a special little item to
so
bring
they're
with
envisioning
them
what it's going to be like
to
in the
make
school.
them feel that connected to.
Yes.
I'm still connected to mom. I've got this special item or this special picture to take along with me. That sometimes helps with kids.
Yeah.
Maybe do practice of the routine, this is how I'm going to drop you off, and this is where I'm going to pick you up, and have that discussion and practice.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Because once the kids have the information, they can begin to make sense of it in their own mind, right? If they're given the information instead of this big unknown thing, that can be
it's
worrisome
so
to any of us, right?
Yes.
Where if you have the information and you have a plan in place, then it just eases that transition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it gives them that comfort, I know what's going to happen next. And a lot of things with anxiety, they're asking that question, what's going to happen next? Are you going to be there? And where are we going to go? And how is it going to
So many questions, right?
So many questions.
Yeah, and moms and dads are worried as well when they see their child worrying. So they start going, I don't know. And then they start feeding off of each other, right?
Yeah,
and we don't
and
want
that's where that separation anxiety escalates.
Yes,
because
exactly.
We
We both did the same thing at the same time. Yeah.
And you can have a little fun with your kids, in advance, to play some games. One suggestion was play hide and seek, which is a good one because it's that practice of, yes, I'm going to find you, I'm going to come back, I'm going to return, so
that's wonderful.
Put
So
some
that trust there,
into it.
right?
Yes,
So because that's their fear a lot of times. Mom, when am I going to? Dad, when am I going to see you next? And you're teaching them that mom and dad always come back.
Yeah. And it's temporary, right? You're temporarily sort of, removed from your parent, but then you have a reunion, right?
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. I love that.
Another idea is to do some practice around the school so they get used to the playground and they can kind of take a tour around the outside of it and have some picnics and things just so they get more familiar with it. Have some fun, laugh and chat.
Because parents, when you do this with your children, your children are going to feel it. They're going to know that it's coming from a place of comfort and safety, felt safety, whereas when we're full of our angst, that trickles down into the kids. And they feel it. So even if we say, we're good, and we have our game face on, they feel it. They really feel it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so just as much for the parents, right? Preparing for this, checking with their own emotions, how they're feeling, and addressing that so that you can give off sort of that warm confidence in yourself and your child, and they're going to pick up on that, and that will...
And normalizing it. So I'm experiencing it, and this is how I deal with it, and kind of work together on those feelings. Yeah.
Yes, definitely, right?
So
Yeah.
in preparing for the day, make sure you get lots of sleep the night before,
Yes,
and then
yes.
building into the next day and some of your routines and your
Yeah,
set
yeah.
up to
So
it.
those are all like great ideas that you can do sort of leading up to the actual day, and then come the actual morning of the drop off for the afternoon, right? It's again, I think having it,
Nerve-wracking.
right, but having
Yeah.
a plan in place
Mhm.
of like how we're going to handle this, and your child then comes to expect, and they know what's going to happen,
That's right.
And so I think, conversationally on the drive to school or the walk, that you can be talking and reminding them of all the fun things that they're going to be doing at school, right? To get them to shift their attention onto those things rather than the
So
separation from the
important.
parents,
So
right?
important.
We're
Yeah.
highlighting, I
Yeah.
bet you're going to get to do a craft today, or maybe you get to go into the gym or go play on the playground. You're going to meet
Yeah.
new friends, right? To really highlight those fun things that they have to look
Mhm.
forward to,
Yeah.
definitely, right? And again, the moment when the morning of, if you notice that your child is looking a little bit worried, again, it's acknowledging that,
Mhm.
right? Being able to say, oh, you seem to be a little bit worried,
Yeah.
but reassuring them, right? Providing, yes, you're worried, but you're really brave, and I know that you can do this.
Right.
Definitely.
Mhm.
And then focusing on that reunion as well, right? That I'm going to be here to pick you up at this time. And reassuring them that you
Right.
are going to be there for that reunion, definitely, right? Yeah, and like Jody had mentioned, where maybe you again arrange a small something that the two of you can share. If it's a bracelet, a matching
Yeah,
bracelet that you
love that
have,
idea.
or
Yeah.
being able to tell your child that I've got photos of you here that I'm gonna,
Yes.
if I'm
Yes.
feeling sad, this is what I'm gonna do. Is I'm gonna look at a photo
Yeah.
of you and think of you, right?
And I've
Yeah.
heard of it working really well where a child, you could go to the dollar store and get one of those little rocks, and it's very smooth, and they have
Sweet.
little words on it like love or trust
Yeah.
or anything like that, and the child just puts it in their pocket. And
Mhm.
as they're feeling that way, they rub the stone, and it reminds them of mom. It reminds them of
Yeah.
dad, and it brings them that connection.
Definitely, right? And again, I think if having conversations with the teachers ahead of time
Oh, yeah.
for you to understand what pick up and drop off is going to look like, and so that your child is prepared for that. I think it's helpful at the actual drop off to be able to physically hand your child off to an adult that's there,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Giving them their hand,
Yeah.
being able
Depends
to
on
say,
the schools. Like some schools will let the parents come in and
Yes.
settle
Some
them in
don't.
the class,
That's
and some
right.
of them don't. So make
Yeah.
sure you clarify that. Yeah.
yes,
Mhm.
but being able to pass them off to somebody
Oh,
so they
yes.
feel connected to somebody, right? Where
Yes.
mom or dad isn't here right now, but I do have these
Yeah.
other people who are my
Yeah.
caregivers for the time being, right?
Yeah.
And I think the idea that your the goodbye can be something that, again, that's sort of prearranged, and maybe you have a fun little handshake that you do at the
Yeah.
end, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you, I'm going to do a handshake, I'm going to give you a kiss on the cheek, and then I'm
Right.
going to go.
Right.
And I
Be
think
prepared.
the important, yes, that's the plan, right?
Yes.
We're sticking to the
Yeah.
plan, and so just really the importance of go, like as parents,
Yeah.
to go,
Just go.
right? Where it's like
We got this.
we're tempted to like want to linger
Mhm.
and look in and see
Mhm.
what's happening.
Peer
and
in the
But
window.
sometimes that makes the child a little bit like, oh, what's wrong? You're not following through with
Exactly.
our
Yes.
plan. What's
Yes.
happening?
That's
Yeah.
Yes,
right. So they
definitely,
worry.
right? And I guess at the end of the day, just portraying this confidence in your child
Mhm.
and and the staff at the school that you trust them, and
Yeah.
that your child is very capable of going off to school
That's
and
right.
onto this next stage of independence, right? So
And it is a stage of independence. It's such a rite of passage for a child,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
yes.
And so there's things that maybe parents don't know or what to expect. So we talked about the week before, we talked about the day of, but what are the little things? You may see your child escalating a little bit more, some emotion dysregulation happening more frequently.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that they're afraid of being at school.
Mhm.
It's just instinct to want to be near mom and dad, right?
Yeah.
So we just have to work with that. One of the things that sometimes parents will say is, you don't need to feel that way. You're fine. You're
Mhm.
fine.
Yeah,
And
dismiss how they're
yes,
feeling. Right?
Yes.
and kids will go, oh, that's not how I feel
Yeah,
inside.
because change is scary.
It's
so
very
they're gonna go
scary.
through that little transition.
Yes, so to acknowledge that and just say, yes, I know this is
Yeah.
scary, but this is going to be so much fun for you, right? And so that's another big piece of this is a transition for both parents and children. And we
Yeah,
do have to
that's
work
right.
at it together. And I think using that calm voice and having that secure relationship with your child to have them trust, because if you don't look like you're trusting the process, they're not going to trust the process.
Mhm. They're
right?
picking up their cues from
They
you.
really
Yes,
are. They
yeah.
really are.
Definitely.
So another piece that comes to mind is sometimes separation anxiety doesn't show up right away. And then all of a sudden, 3 weeks in, all of a sudden we're seeing that, no, mom, don't leave. No, dad, don't leave. And that's okay. That's normal. That does happen sometimes. There's something set the child off and they feel a little bit unstable and they need more reassurance. That doesn't mean a regression in them. It just means that they just need that extra push, that extra love to move forward and to go, you got this, you're good.
In
right?
schools, I find we often see that after an extended break, right?
Yes.
After Christmas
Exactly.
break,
Right.
that you can
Yeah.
almost feel like you've regressed in some ways, and children struggle to come into the school again.
Yep.
Usually temporarily, right?
Yep.
But I mean, we still see it in grade 1, right? With that
Mhm.
transition, that not just that, in the preschool years and kindergarten, it also happens in grade 1 where it's a transition to full days of school, and
Right.
it's just a little bit different,
It's a lot.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that again, that's sort of natural in lots of ways, right?
Absolutely. You know, when
Yes.
your
For
child
development.
comes home and they're crying and you think, oh my goodness, they must have been tortured all day. That's not the way it is. They're having
No.
fun. Maybe when they lock eyes with mom or dad, they go, oh, right, I missed you. Oh my goodness, I need to feel this way.
Yeah.
Or maybe mom goes, how are you? And they have that look of, and so the child goes, oh, should I be feeling nervous if you're nervous for me?
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that we as working in a school system, we're trying to help our parents recognize that. We got this. We got this, and we're going to support you and your children to make sure that handoff is very smooth, right?
Mhm.
So it's a good thing. So
Yep.
at the end of the day, we're doing this for our children because why?
Because our mental health matters.
Your mental health matters.